God bless everybody today. It is March 27th of 2024, and I want to go over some quick information on the Red Heifer prophecy and how that might affect us as we move forward into the next month as we work into Passover. We've talked about a number of dates that we should be watching, especially that April 8th date. And I want to show you why that might matter to this prophecy also. So let's get into this. I'm not going to get too deep into the prophecy because there's a lot here, but I do think it matters to where we are in time. So I believe this could be extremely important as we move forward, because this happens around the dates that we've been talking about, around this April 8th date. As we go into a potential signing of a treaty on April 20th. This campaign to do this Red Heifer Sacrifice has been going on for some time. Actually, there's gentlemen bought this land, piece of property on the Mount of Olives 12 years ago and has been trying to conduct this sacrifice pretty much ever since, trying to get it all prepared, get everything ready, proper time to have it done, different things like that. So they've actually erected this massive altar to do this sacrifice on. It's not on the Temple Mount, it's actually on the Mount of Olives. He bought a parcel of land there, they built it there, they're going to do this sacrifice. And they are running out of time to do the sacrifice because the heifers that they have can only be so old. And so since it indicates since the time of Moses, only 9 red heifers have been sacrificed. So we have not seen a sacrifice of a red heifer since the last temple destruction. And so this is extremely important, because in all major religions, Muslim, Christians, and Jews, we believe in general that this sacrifice has to happen before end days occurs. And so that's extremely important, because this would be the 10th heifer that would be sacrificed, and then that would allow the temple then to be rebuilt, the third temple. So it's extremely important for all religions, okay? And so that's one of the reasons I want to bring it to your attention, because the timing of this potential sacrifice is extremely important. Now, I will state one thing. Some people believe that when Jesus was sacrificed and was nailed to the cross and rose, he was the 10th heifer, because he sacrificed himself for his blood for us. So that is one thought process out there that you need to be aware of. So, but in this case, these people have built this altar. They want to do this sacrifice. These animals are in their 3rd year. And so the animals can't get so old or they become blemished, and then they can't use them anymore. And in September of 2022, they found 5 of them in the state of Texas, and now there's like 4 of them. One of them's been disqualified. And so so they brought these heifers in, and what's really interesting, you're going to find out something really cool at the end of the story that I think links all this together. It's extremely interesting. And so they try to practice run in 23, but now they actually want to do this sacrifice, because the cows are getting too old and they're going to become blemished, and then it's hard to find these kind of cows. So that's extremely important. And so the question is, when would they do this sacrifice of this heifer itself? And so if you go out and actually look at it, and I'm going to take you to this article, it indicates that that has to happen on the last Sabbath right before Passover in the month of Adar. So it has to happen on a Sabbath, which would be a Saturday, which would happen on the last month, or the month of Adar, or the last Sabbath of Adar, right before Passover. So let's go look at the calendar. And we talked about to Adar because that was the original siege on Jerusalem to begin with. So we keep talking about Adar. This is extremely important. But look at the timing of this, guys. So they would have the last prayer of the Muslims on this Friday. Okay, so this would be on the Temple Mount on April 5th. Then you have this potential sacrifice of the red heifer on the 6th on the temple, or on the Mount of Olives, which would then take you into April 8th, which is that potential sixth seal event right before the beginning of the Jewish New Year of 1 Nisan. Okay, so that's extremely important because we're now starting a new cycle into the new year of Nisan, or the Jewish calendar, first of the month or first of the year. It's not the Gregorian calendars. This is a Jewish Hebrew calendars, guys. The first day of their year is Nisan 1. Basically April 8th going into April 9th. We talk about also Ramadan ending around this time also, so there's a lot happening in here, and that would potentially create a sixth seal event around this time. We have to have a resurrection event somewhere in this next 2 weeks up to a signing of a treaty of April 20th. And why is that important? Well, that's Hitler's birthday, number one, and that's 1260 days of the Feast of Trumpets of October 2nd of 27. And so that might be your demarcation period, where you go into Antichrist being resurrected here into the signing of a treaty with the nations into the 1260 days. So why could this be a real nightmare? Number one, the Temple Mount has a mosque on it now, okay? It's not like God's temples on there anymore. It literally has a Muslim temple or a mosque on there. And this is a real problem because if you try to do a red heifer sacrifice, which would then bring the Messiah back through the Temple Mount on the temple itself through the third temple, you have to rebuild the third temple, which is a Jewish temple, which would cause all kinds of problems for the Muslims because they have the rock, or this Al-Asqa Mosque on there, okay? And it's a problem because this is where Muhammad supposedly had placed his feet on the ground before he ascended to heaven, and so this is like the third holiest place in the Muslims religious book. And so it would not go over well if you're doing a sacrifice of a red heifer on the Mount of Olives to bring, even though you can't do it on the temple because the temple's not rebuilt, and they can't do it here anyway because they're prohibited. As you can see, for the last 10 days, they couldn't go up there anyway. So the Jews are prohibited to go up there in the last 10 days of Ramadan, so they couldn't do the sacrifice on the temple. That's why they're trying to do it on the Mount of Olives. And so if they do that, that would spark outrage, okay? And then I wanted to show you something on the end of that article that I almost forgot about. So they built this massive altar, and this Mammo bought this property. It overlooks the temple. There's a specific location. It has to look in towards the temple. It has to be like east of it. And so it's extremely important. This thing, that the purchase of this property actually dealt with all the qualifications. Now they're concerned about the heifers getting too old. And now, so if you go from September of 22 to now, these cows are starting to get to the age where they are not they're going to become blemished and not be able to be used, and so they're concerned about that, and so they want to do the sacrifice on that fourth Sabbath of Adar, which is the 6th of Saturday. And like I say, you've got that Muslim thing going on in the temple the day before. So they know this, guys. They don't look. The Muslims don't want the Messiah, Jesus, to come back on their on the Temple Mount while the mosque is sitting there, if you get what I mean. Okay? And even he's saying, look, we're running out of time. We don't have a choice. We want to do this before Passover at 24. Okay, well, I just showed you they have to do it on the fourth Sabbath day of Adar, which is April 6th. Okay, you have your last Muslim prayer session on April 5th, and then you have a potential 6th seal event on April 8th, ushering in Antichrist. Okay, and if they do the and I think they will do the sacrifice, because if they do the sacrifice, that would then, based on a lot of people's prophecy out here, would allow them to then rebuild the third temple. So this Temple Institute is going to do that. I'm telling you, they're going to do it. He owns the land. They've got everything ready to go. They're all set. Everything's ready. They know exactly what they're going to do. They've selected everybody. Everybody's been trained. They're ready to go. They have the heifers in place. But you got to think, the Muslims not going to like this happening. They do not want the Lord Jesus to come back down on the Temple Mount. Not our God. Not our Lord Jesus. You know, they got a different book, guys. It's called the Quran. They believe in Jesus too, but he's not the Son of God, okay? It's a different thing. So, you have all these things culminating into this, into the next week and a half here, into that weekend of April 5th through basically April 8th. And then if you have a 6th seal event on April 8th during that eclipse, potentially you might have a resurrection into a signing of a treaty on April 20th. I think that's extremely important. Another thing that I wanted to bring to your attention, and this I think is extremely important. In the article here, it says this. It indicates that the red heifers had been imported before October 7th, and that Hamas was trying to basically take the heifers because they were going to use them to purify the temple, which is a desecration to them. Okay? So Hamas did not want these animals to desecrate their temple, which is where the mosque is at. Okay? Because if they allow this to happen, then Jesus is going to come down, and that would be a desecration, because it's our Jesus, not theirs. Nothing to do with their religion. It's a Jewish Jesus. And in the Jewish religion, this would purify them. Okay, and the Muslims don't want that. So it would be purifying them so that they could then actually go up. Even if there was no temple, they could pray as if there was no temple. So, or they could pray as if there was a temple. So this is going to happen, guys. It has to happen on a very specific date. Okay. So, they're trying to beat it back and forth on when they think it should happen, but if you follow what they state in the Bible, it indicates that it has to happen on the fourth Sabbath of the last Sabbath of Adar, and so you have to look at that April 6th date on the calendar to determine that that would probably be the date that they would do that, and that would be right before Passover, because Passover ends up on April 22nd. So if you come back into the calendar, you come into the Friday, this would be the last date that the Muslims would be on the temple praying that morning. I'm just laying it out so you understand what's going on, guys. Then you come into Saturday, or the Sabbath. This would be when they would sacrifice the red heifer, which would potentially be a massive breakout on Israel, okay? We keep wondering when we're going to see this huge breakout on Israel, okay? Well, this might be the time, okay? Which would then take you into a sixth seal event potentially on the 8th, and a signing of the treaty on the 20th, with a resurrectional event somewhere in between here, guys. As you walk into the 1st of Nisan, which is the new Jewish holiday, and you got Passover coming in here, okay? And they have to do this before Passover. At least in their eyes, they have to do it before Passover. It has to happen the last Sunday of Adar. This would be the last Sunday of Adar, or Saturday, excuse me, of Adar. So you have to look at that also. So I just think there's a lot going on here. I think there's a lot that we should be looking at here, guys. I think it's extremely important that we see some of this stuff. You know, the restriction of the last 10 days of the 30 days of the month of Ramadan, where the Jews can't go there, so that's why they're going to have this on the Mount of Olives. And then when you also look at Armageddon, what happens? Jesus places his feet on the Mount of Olives and splits them in half. And so there's a lot going on there too. And a lot of times I look at that differently than some, because that could be a sixth seal event during the wrath of the Lamb, when Jesus steps his feet down on the Mount of Olives and splits it in half so the remnant can go to Edom while they're under attack through Gog, and he's raining missiles from heaven down on a sixth seal event, as you see also in Ezekiel 38:20, I believe, is a sixth seal event equivalent. If you want to look at that also. And so this is so important. Look, if they do the sacrifice of the red heifer on the 6th of April, or before the 20th of April, or before the 8th of April, anytime soon, they're ushering in the third temple, which is something the Muslims don't want to have happen. And so they're going to stop this process, if at all possible, okay? And I guess that's what I'm trying to get at is, are we going to see something huge happen? Because this is not in Jerusalem. It's actually on the outskirts of Jerusalem. So you got Jerusalem here, you got the Western Wall here, you got the Mount of Olives east of there. And so this is going to be in an area that could be susceptible to attack. Okay, and they don't want this event to happen. The Muslims can't allow this to happen. Actually, it'd be a better way to put it. So I'm just concerned that we might actually see this happen. This would be a game changer, and I think you all need to be aware of it. If you actually see this event go off, then I'm guessing you're going to see a sixth seal event just shortly after that. You know, Biden just came out and tried to divide the land of Israel, you know, the nation of Israel, in a two-state solution again, a national speech. That always turns out badly for the country or nation that tries to do that. And so I've been talking about us being under judgment on April 8th anyway, with that new Madrid fault line and everything. This could be a potential problem. And if you think about it, if you look at the sixth seal event, that is a earthquake in Israel. And so it could be a sixth seal event. this could break open and this could get really, really crazy, guys. So God bless and have a great day.